Hi guys, in today's video I'm going to discuss the flavor behind the different card types in Magic. Let's start with one of the most unique features of Magic as a card game, the lands. Since libraries represent the entire mind of the planeswalker, in other words the player, when a land is played, say a plains, basically you tap into the already established connection with the land that you visit personally or at least know about and have bound to yourself through some form of ritual. As a not very outgoing person, I prefer to imagine that such bond can be formed from a concept, perhaps even imagination. Think of this as an example. Some 20 years ago, I was sitting in my grandma's house and had just finished dinner. It was a Sunday and our TV station had a tradition to show a movie. There were some lines of text at the start and then you see it. A field full of wheat and a man's hand gently passing over the stalks. Then you see the man, who looks like he was deep in thought, perhaps longing for his home. At the end of the movie, you again see the wheat fields and a man walking towards a woman with child. They see him and smile and wave and run to him. The man is finally reunited with his family. A bittersweet reunion, but a reunion nonetheless. That movie was Gladiator, and I haven't seen it since then, perhaps because there was no need. You see, I don't have photographic memory. It has been 20 years, but it feels like yesterday, since I can recall most of the film quite vividly, especially the wheat fields, as if it was my hand that passed over them. Now, if I was a mage that had to summon a plains, do you mean to tell me that this bond isn't sufficient? Speaking of summoning, once that bond is established, the mana that the land produces appears as a sphere in front of the planeswalker. Think something akin to the spheres that orbit Keltas, a character from World of Warcraft. After that, the player can tap into these spheres, drain their mana for his spells, and after a certain period of time, usually one turn rotation, those spheres recharge themselves, ready to be tapped again. Coming up next are the creatures. Back in the day, summoning a creature literally meant pulling it from whatever place it existed in and transporting it to the presence of the planeswalker, who further, if the creature was not happy to be part of a duel to the death, had to be enslaved by magic. An interesting fact is that if the planeswalker who summoned them won the duel, they would be transported back to wherever they came from, but if he lost, they would be stranded on the plane the duel took place. After some time, the lore for summoning was expanded to also allow summoning of a creature based on a concept that the planeswalker is already familiar with and then pulls from the ether. Examples for both of these types of summoning we can find in the flavor text of two different versions of Unsummon. The one from Conflux reads, "Send it back to its own strange world, so we can avoid another inglorious combat with these wicked beings," which implies that the summoning creature will return to its own world, while the one from M10 reads, "Mages routinely summon creatures from the Ether. It is only fair that they occasionally throw one back," which is referencing the new added flavor. Another example is how in the World of Spark storyline, Ugin stripped Dolus of his names so no one could summon him from the prison realm, previously known as the meditation realm. Furthermore, planeswalkers can only summon creatures they have encountered or interacted with during their planar travels. It is important to note that there are some spells that put creatures under the control of the caster, such as raising undead in dread summons, creating elementals in devastating summons, calling on wild beasts from the nearest vicinity, like Huatli did in the short story Glimpse the Far Side of the Sun, or even sentient beings, as is the case with kindred summons. All of these spells are referred as summoning, but as we already discussed, summoning in the lore means either teleporting a real creature to the caster, or creating a hollow copy of the said creature from memory. The cause for confusion comes from the following. Those four examples, while technically called summons in the cards and the stories, are actually not, because in reality they use the other, perhaps slightly older meaning of the verb summon, which is to call. In this sense, dread summons calls on the souls of the deceased to rise up, devastating summons calls upon the elements forming the land to merge into beings of pure rage, Huatli calls on the nearby dinosaur to go to her, and kindred summons calls upon the kindred souls of the vicinity to join the fray. Summoning planeswalkers uses somewhat similar lore rules to summoning creatures. Originally, you could only control one planeswalker of that planeswalker type, meaning you could only have one Jace in play, and if you were to summon another with a different name, you would have to choose one to keep and the other to send to the graveyard. In this regard, summoning planeswalkers is closer to the original summoning of creatures, where you pull them by their name across the universe to assist you in battle, and they do so according to their loyalty to you. Those summoned planeswalkers are similar to the player in the sense that they can be attacked to reduce their loyalty, and once that reaches you, then presumably planeswalk away. However, since Ixalan, the rules for planeswalkers have been changed, and you can now have more than one character with the same subtype, as long as the card name is different, or to put it simply, you can have all 12 Jaces as long as they are not duplicates. While this change was meant to simplify gameplay, it also brought summoning planeswalkers closer to the new rules for summoning creatures, meaning this is likely not the real Jace, being pulled from wherever he is in the multiverse, but rather a copy of him from a specific moment in time that was pulled from the player's memory. Next up are the artifacts, which usually represent material, usually man-made objects, with varying size ranging from simple relics of the past, to personal accessories, to weapons, to objects, to even entire rooms. While artifacts can and often have magical properties, they are nonetheless material creations, and as such the effects that specifically destroy artifacts typically apply either physical force, such as shatter, shattering spree, smash, ancient grudge, crush, and by force, or by mechanically wearing down or chemically dissolving the artifact, such as abrade, which as a word means to wear something out by scraping or rubbing, oxidize, and creeping corrosion. Enchantments, on the other hand, usually represent lasting magical effects, such as Form of the Dragon, Lich's Mastery, Blood Moon, and Unnatural Growth, auras that surround a creature, such as Spirit Mantle or Luminous Bonds, and curses that affect a player, like Curse of Misfortunes and Curse of Bloodletting. However, some enchantments represent lasting effects, which are not necessarily magical in nature, such as the Oath Cycle, which represent a character's decision, the sagas, which usually depict historical events in the form of painting, mural, or carving. Others focus on active events, such as Campaign of Vengeance and Katar's Crusade, political situations, such as conspiracy and authority of the consuls, or even psychological dispositions, such as cowardice, no mercy, and asceticism. Unlike artifacts, which are destroyed by predominantly physical force, the effects that can remove an enchantment are for the most part magical in nature, with strong emphasis on cleaning, purifying, or shedding the revealing light of truth. Evidence of this is in cards like Cleanfall, Spring Cleaning, Quiet Purity, Demystify, and Cursebreak, which focus mostly on cleansing and purifying, and Ray of Liberation, Ray of Dissolution, and Paraselene, which, as the flavor text suggests, depict the cleansing moon rays who reveal the true nature of all things, for better or worse. The next card type I'll cover are sorceries. As the word suggests, those are magical effects which can be best described as spells, not in the sense of MTG, where everything beside lands is a spell, but in the more general fantasy sense. As the term sorcery speech suggests, sorceries are slow to cast, either taking preparation in the form of a ritual, or because the action itself takes somewhat of a long time to resolve, like we see in large-scale events, such as Day of Judgment, Approach of the Second Sun, or Star of Extinction, or on a smaller scale, like we see in Shamanic Revelation, Hallowed Respite, or Sign in Blood. Instants, on the other hand, are very quick to cast and resolve, and can represent both magical effects, like Lightning Bolt, Negate, and Ink Shield, quick actions like Go for the Throat, Defiant Strike, and Revitalize, as well as feelings and emotions, as seen in Hatred, Balduvian Rage, Undying Malice, and Crushing Pain. Well, that concludes my flavor overview of the card types in Magic. Thank you for sticking around till the end, and I hope you enjoyed this video. I'll see you next time. Cheers!